beach in Island State Park in Ocean County with the sheriff. He has been working it every single night. He's got his own tethered drones chronicling. One of his officers 2 nights ago saw 50 drones come in off the ocean right there. So we thought maybe they'll replicate it. They didn't, but we thought it was a possibility. Then last night we had a number of other, we don't know for sure.
Talking of biologics, by the way, did anyone catch the craziest question of the evening? And I'm not saying that in a pejorative.
Pivoting from 2024 to 25, because this seems to be
combined, and ATMs stopped dispensing money.
A car across the United States to deliver it to someone who is in Reagan's.
The biography of Yahweh.
Oregano, like using oil of oregano instead of using gum.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Hopefully all is well with y'all. We got some intriguing and informative videos today. Some I found on Twitter, some I got sent to me. And these drones that's going through New Jersey, New York, they say it's been all over the world. We don't know if it's other governments, if it's aliens, interdimensional beings, might be AI, or it could just be our own government doing some test run. We gonna go into it, give a opinion. That don't mean I'm right. It's just my opinion of what I gathered. And hopefully y'all like what I put together today, and let's jump right on in.
Drone sightings. So last night I was on the beach in Island State Park in Ocean County with the sheriff. He has been working it every single night. He's got his own tethered drones chronicling. One of his officers 2 nights ago saw 50 drones come in off the ocean right there. So we thought maybe they'll replicate it. They didn't, but we thought it was a possibility. Then last night we had a number of other people there, including a commanding officer from the Coast Guard, who said that one of their 47-foot motor lifeboats was followed by between 12 and 30 of these drones as they went through the water, followed right behind them. You know, and I said, what's the rules of engagement? I mean, you do it if you're fighting against a narco trafficker or something. And they said, we don't know, we don't have any. So I did reach out to the commanding officer at the Joint Base, which is also in my district, and talked to him. Had a very good conversation. Colonel Anthony Smith, Joint Base Fort Dix McGuire, the 87th Air Wing, Air Base Wing today. And I said, I know you have the capability. You've put out press releases to identify and bring down drones. Why can't you deploy them at least to the ocean? Bring one of these down, find out who's doing it. They have the capability. They said, well, we don't have the authority, only within the parameters of our base. Well, there's a national interest here. Our jets fly over the ocean all the time for training, so that perimeter is larger. So I did write Secretary Lloyd Austin asking that capability that may be sitting in a closet somewhere. I know they use it all the time, but bring it out. And I'm not saying you got to share it with the sheriffs. It'd be nice. Just do it yourself in the interest of the American public. So I would ask if you would echo that request. I mean, DOD's got the capability, and maybe Homeland Security does as well. When we had a Zoom meeting with Secretary Mayorkas, our governor put it together, and I appreciated that. But I asked them, why can't we just track where they go to? Seemingly they're going out to sea, to something, a ship. We don't know for sure, but they can.
Talking of biologics.
You know, the thing that baffles me about that, y'all, is like, it could be a potential threat. And like he said, nobody attempted to do nothing. So that speculates more a government operation. And then the thing that I found interesting is saying here later stage. They say later on, yesterday, last night, but later on through all this briefing, one of the guys say, I believe he like a chairman or some senator or something. He eventually says that it's an Iranian mothership. Now, we know motherships through UAP, UFO talk, correct? So y'all know about motherships and the public doesn't? You see what I'm saying? The potential, like, it's just, if you pay attention to what's going on in Ukraine, you will understand where I come from, that these drones could be very dangerous to the public. So hopefully we learn more. Hopefully, I pray it's us. I pray it's us, because if they engage in any manner, it's just at that point it's open season. That was one of my favorite TV shows, by the way, movies too. But other than that, it seemed like it's the wild, wild west. Do y'all think this a threat from, you know, the other sides of the world, the other powers that may be? They say, you know what, USA, what we could do, we here, say something. Because then at that point it's an act of war. So, but it's real interesting events that's unfolding around us late 2024. Hopefully, you know, nothing go wrong. We all can have a prosperous future. But if we don't get a grip on it now, we might be speaking different languages, y'all. So let's just jump right back into it.
By the way, did anyone catch the craziest question of the evening? And I'm not saying that in a pejorative way. The claims made by Congresswoman Lauren Boebert from Colorado. And she asked, there are rumors that have come up to the Hill of a secretive project within the DoD involving the manipulation of human genetics with what is described as non-human genetic material, potentially for the enhancement of human capabilities and hybrids. Are any of you familiar with that, yes or no? No, nobody gave her any kind of wow answer, but that is one hell of an allegation, that this is an allegation that has come to the attention of the Hill, of the Congress. Watch that.
You're telling me we don't know?
And see, excuse me, but and see, we could be sent up there. That I've heard a rumor, right, that in Ukraine, the reason we doing all that is really because we have what is it, some chemical biologics out there or something going on in facilities out there that we just don't want Russia to get their hands on. You know, they said Ukraine paid us off in 06, but they've been indebted to us since, I believe, the Cold War or something, or World War II, I believe, one of the two. I gotta fact check it. I'm not 110% sure. I'm a novice in this, y'all. Don't take me. Always do your own research. Don't take my word for anything. Well, take my word if I tell you something like, you know, I believe it with a fact. Still research, but other than that, always research. So just make sure, because you never know if somebody been compromised. So I just wonder, you know, is it more going on if they're doing experimentation, and if they're trying to create a new human? Have they created a new human? And we gonna get into more details about things that the governments have been whipping up in labs later on in this video. So just stick with me, and we gonna keep unloading, unfolding, and doing what we do.
Know what the hell these drones are in New Jersey are? Is that correct?
That's right.
It's crazy. I mean, that's crazy. That's madness that we don't know what these drones are.
What is going on in New Jersey?
So, sir, the FBI and our Newark field office, along with the state and local partners there, the Bureau is actively investigating the situation you mentioned, just the unexplained sighting of drone activity over that part of New Jersey, including proximity to sensitive sites and areas of concern. So we do not attribute that to an individual or a group yet. We're investigating, but I don't have an answer of who's responsible for that, of one or more people that are responsible for those drone flights. But we're actively investigating. It is concerning.
Is the public at risk? Is public safety at risk? Are we concerned that there are nefarious intentions that could cause either national security or a public safety incident that would put Americans at risk?
There's nothing that is known that would lead me to say that, but we just don't know, and that's the concerning part.
Consistent sightings of drones over military facilities. The sighting of what we are told are drones over sensitive, super sensitive military facilities. It sounds like nothing at the moment, but I wager it's going to turn out to be enormous.
Which
Can't
is
say
sort
any
of
more right now.
it's a way of pivoting from 2024 to 25, because this seems to be ongoing.
I think 2024 in future will be seen, ironically, as the calm before the storm.
Wow.
I think very early in 2025, all hell is going to break loose. Watch.
You heard that here first, folks. I mean, to say all hell's going to break loose in early 2025, you don't get a lot of wiggle room on that one, Ross. You know,
Nope.
By March of 2025, I'm going to be holding you accountable saying, okay, you said, let's hear it.
And see, one thing, like for me, y'all, when he said that, I just took note. Like, what do he know? You know, regardless of it, some people, because sometimes, you know, journalists are wrong. So he got something wrong a long time ago, and people just say he a fraud, call him all this, and that. But that don't change the fact that he don't have people that call him. Because sometimes you get certain information. Everybody, that's where the phrase comes from. Everybody can't hold water. So some people just spill, so you don't know what this man knows. And we don't get more in detailed about the things that he have uncovered and been told. That's really mind-boggling. Like, I'm gonna drop on right now, like the psionics. Like, we really more than what they tell us. You know what I'm saying? But yet again, I believe if we know what we're truly capable of, then you could be controlled. You see what I'm saying? If you don't know, you stuck. They got full control. But if you know you can't be controlled, what you gonna do to me? So we gonna just see and really get more into it. Hey, please like, comment your thoughts so we can engage with one another constantly. I'm gonna continue to do me, and please, if you new, subscribe, baby, so you could just, you know, stay with us. We trying to build, grow, and just undiscover the truth together. This is the hub. I'm trying to create my own X-Files here, regardless of what may be and may not be. We gonna dig and find the truth, because that's what it's about. Because we got all these guys out here like the Alex Joneses, the Tucker Carlsons, the Joe Rogans. We don't know who telling us the real and who not. But I tell y'all this, y'all been with me since the beginning. So long as we get there, I'm telling you, I'm gonna tell y'all what it is. I don't care about the money. Don't get it wrong. Long as I'm cool to a certain extent, I'm good. I just need to be cool. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, I'm gonna just bring 110% transparency. That's the goal. And if I'm wrong, I'm gonna admit I'm wrong. That's what y'all can always rely on. These other guys, if they wrong, they not going to admit they're wrong. I'm going to admit my wrong, because I know at the end of the day, I'm not perfect. I'm not no machine. But one thing about me, because I'm imperfect, I continue to work on the perfection of oneself. But you would never be perfected. But we're going to jump right back in.
We build craft that look like their craft. They build craft that look like ours. It's underway right now. These drone things that are popping up over air bases, drones, a nice prosaic term that calms us down. Well, maybe somebody went to Amazon and bought one, or Walmart or something. They're trying to shoot those things down. They haven't been able to, using the kind of sophisticated anti-drone technology. It doesn't work on these things. I think those drones they're something else, and they're telling us something.
Dogs living near the Chernobyl.
And you know what's crazy? I learned about a new thing yesterday. I think it's called scalar energy. That's mind-boggling. I'm gonna have to do more research in that and bring it to us so we could understand more of what's going on. You know what I'm saying? I believe it's about control. It's about power. You know, at the end of the day, some of these old heads, you know how it be. The old heads just don't be want to release from a certain idea, a certain foothold in things. And sometimes, brother, you're wrong. Sister, you're wrong. It's just what it is. But sometimes you may be right, and it's a little bit of truth in everything. You see what I'm saying? So we just gonna continue. Bear with me. We continuing. You know, it's not a race, it's a marathon. So take your time with me.
Nuclear disaster site have developed a new superpower, scientists have found. In a recent discovery, scientists have discovered that dogs living in Chernobyl are immune to radiation, heavy metals, and pollution. Scientists collected blood samples from 116 stray dogs living in the Chernobyl exclusion zone and found 2 different populations that were both genetically extinct from other dogs. The new discovery suggests that the dogs have adapted to withstand long-term exposure to the toxic environment as they have continued to thrive in the wasteland. The dog's superpowers could help us understand the impact of living in a highly toxic environment, not only in dogs, but in humans too.
What people don't know is that Hudson County, New Jersey.
You know what's crazy about that? I tried to find the video for us today, y'all, but it was a part of a video I was looking at yesterday. And the guy that I showed, Ross, I think he a decent journalist. I ain't gonna say he great, but he seemed decent, seemed to do his due diligence and talk about things that the main media don't want to talk about. And you know, we so caught up in this circus, all the other stuff that's like dopamine build, and we latch on to that instead of like things that we're been programmed to think is, in my opinion, not true. But they were talking about how some of these aliens, the only reason they popped up is once we started doing nuclear stuff. And they said that the nuclear stuff has dimension breaking properties, and it goes to a different dimension and it affects their planet or their reality. And you know, so that's why they was popping up like, whoa, what's going on? They probably got the technology to fix it, but they like, bro, if you keep you hurt us before we can even, you know, repair ourselves. So, and then they say it might be a consciousness that's got alerted, some consciousness. You don't know, it could be the Lord, it could be something else that does have the power of creation. We don't know. We don't, yet again, we've been told things, y'all. We have yet to, I can't speak for y'all, but for me, I haven't experienced the angel. Now, do I think something protects and watch over me? I believe so, but I could be wrong. It could just be the programming of my father. You see what I'm saying? When I was in dark places telling me I had a guardian angel. So I understand how certain things can be developed. So, you know, it's a lot of things that could be true and untrue. Like he even said on part of the video, he said that Israel opened up a portal and they was talking to like interdimensional beings. Like it's different type of, like it's some wild stuff out there. So, and some of these people that's into these dark satanic cults, they say that's real because they tapping into a demonic presence, you know, something that's not really moving how we move. So they say it's that angels and demons. We might, like how we got this story, it might be true, but we adapted it into a way that over the years, and you gotta think about, we lost our history, different events has happened so much, we might have just changed a true situation into something else. I don't know. I do believe Jesus and all that. I believe in the Lord. I believe in a lot of things, but they say these aliens can mess with our consciousness too and change what we believe around us. So then at that point, if that is somewhat true, you have to question everything until you find your truth or what you want to believe. So that's what we're here for. We're gonna try to find the truth. We're gonna try to break open this safe that the Pentagon and all these other foreign entities have tried to hide from us. So, and I'm gonna continue to do my due diligence regardless of where the platform has these informational videos. I'm gonna bring it to us so we could stay ahead of it, be locked in, because you know, all we got is each other. So let's stick together, weather the storm, and you know, come out better than ever. Saying, why don't they try to say, you know what, let's climb to the top of this? Is it just too unstable? What is the reason nobody just said, let's try to get on top and take a picture and just see everything from a different angle? You know, like maybe it's just me, I'm the only one thinking like that, but why not? Let me learn it more. Like, why is it so like just like it just seems like I'm not seeing the whole, like, you know how you do a turn shot? Why is this no turn? Like, it's just like this half part, or is it just me? Am I just visually reaching? Let me know, y'all.
Got people calling me.
I gotta find more of this footage. Is this a documentary or something? Because I'm just curious. I really don't think we gonna see that whole side that's showing the other half. Like, what's over there? Like, you know what I mean? Is it go to the other end? Why we don't see more footage like that? Maybe it's just me. Maybe it is out there and I just haven't seen it. So, but I don't believe it until, you know, I somewhat see it. Now, you know, something else, that's a different conversation.
Who are telling me that stuff they've posted on places like Reddit is mysteriously disappearing. Now, I don't know how it works. I don't know how this works, but one of the things that I am aware of is that there are government agencies that are doing what's called Google ranking attacks. Okay. And so if there's an article they don't like, they can actually reduce the significance of that article using their algorithms and basically make it disappear. You won't find it in the first 1,000 pages of your Google search. So what they do is they lower the ranking of those articles. And one of the things I got leaked recently is the names of people working in Meta, Facebook and Google, and I haven't publicized this yet, but I'll tell you about it. There are people formerly working in perception operations in the CIA and the intelligence community who are now working inside social media organizations. I've got those people's CVs. I know who they are. And I'm just waiting to see, eventually, when we can use it. I know a lot more than I'm able to discuss publicly because I know how these organizations...
And I know, and then another time, people will be like, well, excuse me, you got to be lying because at the end of the day, why don't you say it? But let's say you told me something and you seen things and you know what can happen to you. Would you want me to still tell because I so-called? No, you would be like, brother, please protect me and mine. And that's something what you got to do. You got to make that decision. And I think if you, a normal, empathetic human, you will understand that point and that stance. And you'll be like, you know what? I ain't going to say nothing, boss.
They're using perception management disinformation exactly as they did right back in 1974, 75, 76, when Nixon was trying to put out the fires of Watergate. What we are seeing here, Matt, is the slow burning embers of a national scandal. And sooner or later, it's going to come out into the open. And what's happening at the moment is there are people behind the scenes who are coming forward. And I get kind of bored, really, with people in the UAP, UFO community who treat this as entertainment. They get angry. They say, why is my weekly serve of new information about UAP stuff not coming up on my plate? And what they don't understand is the level of work and investigation that has to be done to crack this stuff without compromising sources. And believe me, that work is being done right now. There are more people coming forward, quietly providing people like me and congressional oversight committees information about blatant criminality and illegality involving the program.
Actual reason TikTok is being banned that no one is talking about. Recently, a book on TikTok surfaced called The Forgotten Apothecary. The book contains stolen information from another book called The Bandanius Manuscript, which was a book that contains secret ancient herbal remedies to our everyday problems. The Bandanius Manuscript is currently hidden in the Vatican Library, but The Forgotten Apothecary holds the secrets from the manuscript that big companies do not want us to know about. Before, you could only purchase the book off the dark web. It was recently made available on the TikTok shop, which is the reason TikTok is being banned. I linked it for you below. Get one now before it is too late, and let's all hope TikTok does not get banned.
About distorting not only space, but time. And this is where the other side of the explanation comes in, because, and I grimace as I say this, because I'm not saying it's true. It's just an explanation that's being put in my lap. I'm being told this is future human. And I'm being told that we're looking at is an effort by a future civilization to stop a catastrophe, to stop us silly monkeys that are playing with matches, as Edgar Mitchell once said to his good friend, the spaceman, one of my friends in the book. The explanation that's being offered is that there is a fear that to make this public is to change a timeline. And I'm not an astrophysicist and I'm not a time physicist. I don't know anything about quantum physics. But there is a real mood of apocalypse in the people that I'm engaging with officially, who speak to me on a background basis in defense or intelligence in the United States in particular. They are really worried that we're heading for a calamity. And I don't know what to make of that explanation, but I put it out there for your digestion.
There are proven effects from UAPs on humans that are currently being investigated by the CIA, a funded research study where they're looking at pilots, experiencers, witnesses who've been exposed to what they suspect is some form of radiation from these objects, and some of them are suffering health effects, but there are others who are also claiming to have had things happen to their brains after they were exposed to the phenomenon that have given them, well, psi abilities, the ability to have precognition or understanding of things that they previously couldn't understand, understanding of advanced physics. So there is a phenomenon that the Pentagon has officially admitted to Congress under oath is real.
How could you manage to keep, until now perhaps, keep secret for decades such significant developments? Surely somebody somewhere would have spoken. Somewhere in a country, somewhere in the world, it would have come out. Why not?
Firstly, Neil, people have. And that's the thing that intrigues me, is people have come forward who I'm told are credible. And they've been roundly ignored and ridiculed. There have been people from within these programs who've spoken out, people who've been briefed into the legacy crash retrieval reverse engineering program. The other thing is, and I got this from David Grush, who's the whistleblower, the very senior intelligence community whistleblower that I interviewed in June. David Grush laughed when I said that to him, because I asked him the same question. And I said, you guys can't keep a secret in Washington. For God's sake, the place leaks. And he laughed, because he was briefed into 2,000 plus special access programs, most of which, he says, have never leaked. Secrets that are integral to US national security, programs that are still protected. And even though you and I think that we journalists are terribly clever and that we often find these secrets out, and yes, there are the Seymour Hirsches and the Woodward and Bernsteins who do come out with this information, the reality is there are a lot of secrets that never leak. They've also gone to the Inspector General for the intelligence community. And that's very, very important, because there is a huge investigation still underway by the Intelligence Community Inspector General. And the implications of that inquiry are that people are going to be held to account, that there is going to be a reckoning, because Congress, a large part of Congress initially was in denial that this was true. They were like you. They were saying, this can't possibly be true. I'm a senior committee member on a committee that's got oversight of this issue. How come I don't know about it? And then they had witnesses come in who testified that this really is the case, that there's been this massive cover-up, beginning of a slow realisation in Congress that they've been lied to, that they've had the wool pulled over their eyes for much of the last 60 or 70 years.
Did you know that
that's crazy that, it might be us from the future trying to warn us of certain actions that we may take, especially how we looking right now. Some people say that the ooks is fake. I don't know. Have I seen one in person? No, I didn't. Have I seen pictures? Yes. Have pictures been faked? Yes. Have some pictures been real? Yes. So at the end of the day, all we can do is continue to research, put people in positions that we know will tell us what it is. So really, like I say, research, research, research. Don't take other people's word for it, because some people does a lot of things that they do not really know that they're doing to cause a great divide amongst the seekers, the truth seekers. And the reason I ain't say seekers and truth seekers together, seeker might be a guy that seek all things. Versus truth seeker, I want nothing but the truth. So other than that, we got to continue to have discernment, have your faith if that's what you have your mind if that's what you have. If you have both, great. Other than that, we got to just stick together, have good positive energy, respect one another, and hopefully the evil that has set itself upon us will be repelled. So we just got to stick together, y'all.
Cain made the first covenant with the fallen angel Azazel. Him and Azazel, they made some deals. Of course, he taught him all the secrets of building and making beautiful cities and big giant gates and welding. And he was a metal worker, and he gave him all kinds of different talents. Taught his children like Enoch. But see, of course, a part of this contract, Azazel took Cain's oldest daughter. And through this creation, they did have a child. The first Nephilim child was a female her name was Hag. And if you were to just Google research who Hag is, she is the mother of Grendel. You might have heard of it. It's called Beowulf. Yes, there is a movie about the fallen angel Nephilim who teaches or convinces Ben to have, and procreates with her and has all these different Nephilim children.
I was living in New Mexico, and a friend of mine, Dennis Hopper's bodyguard, wanted me to come out and see his house. It was way out in the desert, in the middle of nowhere. We went out there, and there was a pile of these spheres laying in his yard.
How many?
Maybe 6 or 7. I don't remember exactly. There was just a pile of them. And I was amazed, as I'd never seen anything like these. And I, what the heck is that? And he said, I'd tell you, but you wouldn't believe me. And I said, well, try me. And he said, well, Jim, I swear to God, a UFO came over my house and dropped these out in my yard. And he said, they've been sitting there ever since. And I was amazed at him. And he said, do you want one? You can have one. So I took it. Well, I've had it for over 40 years, so I've seen it do some things that I can't explain. I was laying on my back on my floor, and I was just mindlessly rubbing my feet on the sphere while I was talking to a friend of mine. And when suddenly there was this flash of light, and I was shot across the floor on my back. I was 6 to 10 feet away from the sphere. It knocked me that far away from it. And there's no explanation for that.
You think that's alien technology, don't you?
Yes, I do. I absolutely do.
That's a huge claim.
I can't imagine what else it is. I just can't imagine why something like this moves around, why it would flash light. But I have since seen videos on the internet of spheres just like this one flying in the air, doing all kinds of things. And apparently they're all over the world.
The United States is warning that
Now, what's crazy about that? If that's true, how do you know somebody didn't come in wherever you stashed it, or when you go to work, or whatever, when you sleep? They do, they say frequencies could do something. They shoot some frequencies at your house, and you go to night, they slide up in there, throw it in the bag, and give you a replica. I don't know, man, that if he gave it to a third party or the science community to investigate, give it to these different countries or peers or whoever, these scientists, professors, to try to find out the truth on it. At that point, I don't know, because but it sounds like something out of a movie. But we got them videos out there with the spheres flying around and doing whatever they doing. It could be scouting.
Russia is getting ready to use a brand new lethal weapon inside of Ukraine in the next few days. So let's break this down, because if the U.S. is announcing this, that means they've got some really good intel. According to the report, a U.S. intelligence assessment has concluded that Russia may use its lethal new intermediate-range ballistic missile against Ukraine in the coming days. That missile is Orishnik, or which translates into hazel. Remember that Russia only has a handful of these weapons, and they sent their first one not too long ago to send a message versus it really being a game changer on the battlefield. And funny enough, that's what the report says here, that the U.S. officials believe that this is an attempt at intimidation rather than a game changer on the battlefield. Ultimately saying, look what we can do if you don't kind of do what we say. So why is Russia doing this? For a few different reasons. One is that the West and European countries are really stepping up their support for Ukraine, and they're giving Ukraine a lot of different stuff that can hold them over not only for 2025, but potentially even the beginning of 2026. We're also seeing Ukraine getting the frozen assets, or at least the windfall from the Russian frozen assets, and they're taking that money and using it to buy more weapons, which could really help them out. But the biggest reason for all of this is that Russia painted into the corner, and they don't know what to do. They're kind of panicking. They're seeing Ukraine is not only getting weapons and stuff from other countries, but they're also developing new weapons like the Petko. Probably also feeling a lot of pressure from Trump's team coming in saying, you got to negotiate, you got to talk this through, and that's not what Putin wants. He doesn't want to negotiate. He just wants what he wants. And as he's feeling the pressure in all different sides, usually he does one of two things. One, he starts screaming about nukes. We're going to nuke this, we're going to nuke that, which is sort of something kind of going on in Belarus, and we'll talk about that later. But since everyone knows he is never going to use nukes, because that would be stupid. I mean, everyone knows, even Russians know that would be stupid if they put nukes in the sky. That's coming from Russian military bloggers, by the way. So the only other threat they really have is using Hazel, which I need to say, I know they're calling it an IRBM, whatever you want. It's an ICBM. I'm sorry. That's what it is. That's what it does. It could carry nukes. This won't. And I know a lot of people are probably scared from this kind of announcement. A few things to kind of remember. When the first one happened, the United States actually learned a lot. They learned how to intercept, or they're learning how to intercept these. So I'm not quite sure if there is something that Ukraine now has that's going to help to intercept these things due to the fact that Russia had sent the other one. I think it was November 21st. But from everything that we're reading online, this is not something that's going to be a game changer. This is something that Russia is just using to really kind of scare Ukraine, at least the West. Will that actually work in scaring people? I don't believe so. Of course, the main question is, where is it going to hit? We don't know. But since this report is coming out now, it's likely that Russia may not actually do this rocket. There might be enough outcry from other countries and people saying, yo, are you that stupid? So for now, we're just going to have to wait and see and just kind of heed the warning. Well, let me know what you guys think about all of this in the comment section below. And please, if you haven't done so yet, please share this video, as the Russian bots are really trying to throttle down all of my videos. And as always, please follow me for more.
Just look like that object that Ezekiel was talking about, that's an angel. But he been mistaken. Could it be something? Could this really be one of God's angels?
Goodbye to the universe.
I just wonder. I really am curious about that one. But, you know, as time progresses, we going to figure out these things. Hopefully this information is available to the public, and we have the patience and the understanding to take it and not go crazy with it. You know what I'm saying?
As we know it, Google's quantum chip defies scientists and speaks of parallel universes. Get ready. On Monday, Google announced Willow, the newest and most powerful quantum computing chip. While the claims of speed and reliability for the chip were certainly impressive, what really surprised the tech world was a far more contentious claim buried in the blog post announcing it. Now, the reason for this, according to Hartmut Nevin, the head of Google Quantum AI, was that the performance of the Willow chip was so phenomenally fast that it have borrowed the computation from parallel universes and to the multiverse being parallel universes. What? So the fundamental advance that underlies Willow's performance stems from its capacity to execute calculations at a significantly faster rate than traditional computers, leveraging quantum entanglement, a phenomenon in which particles remain interconnected across considerable distances. This capability enables quantum computers to tackle complex problems that classical computers are incapable of addressing even in their preliminary stages. But Willow don't make no errors. And they're claiming that Willow derives its speed from tapping computational power from other universes. Now, a multiverse is nothing new to physics. It's just basically another name for parallel universes. One interpretation says that every possible outcome of every quantum event actually occurs in some universe or other. So they're saying Willow is a hint that we are living in a multiverse where each computation interacts with various versions of reality. This is deep, people. But despite the skepticism surrounding the claims, the real importance of Willow lies in how it could change computing as we know it. By solving a few of the key problems that we have prevented quantum systems from being practical, Willow could be the next major breakthrough to make quantum computing's true potential a reality. We're talking close to 100% proficiency, people. Article.
Lion that we were extracting DNA from in Zimbabwe. Did I tell you about this?
I don't think so.
Dude, this was pretty nuts. So in late last year, I was tracking this giant lion that this friend of mine had told me that he'd seen in Limpopo Valley of Zimbabwe, like just north of the South African border. And we surmised that there was a potential that this animal, because it was so big, it had such unique behavior in the fact that it was hunting buffalo and even juvenile elephants, might have remnant Cape lion DNA in it. Because the Cape lion is this extinct subspecies of African lion. It's bigger than your regular lion, and they would follow the elephant migrations north and then back south, but generally they hung out in South Africa. Anyway, long story short, we wanted to test the DNA of this lion to see if it had any Cape lion DNA in it, and it was this one individual animal. So we tracked it for over a week, hung bait every night, did the collars, did everything that you do to get a lion in, and then finally this massive black maned lion came in, and I darted it from about 30 feet away from a blind.
Oh,
yeah.
30 feet! Napoleon had actually raided the Vatican archives on his campaign, his Egypt campaign, actually. He stopped it in Italy to Rome. He raided the Vatican archives. He brought everything back to Paris. He was specifically looking for Templar documents, and he never found that document.
Why was he looking for Templar documents?
So Napoleon was the grandson of the illegitimate grandson of Bonnie Prince Charlie, who was the Scottish king in exile.
Okay.
And who was a Templar. And so he had an interest in Templarism because of that. And he was Bonnie Prince Charlie's illegitimate grandson, which is why his name Bonaparte just means basically of good blood. And he always said he was royalty. And this is also why he married a Merovingian princess, Princess Josephine. The Merovingians, of course, was the royal line of France. There was some speculation that they were passing on an Atlantean tradition, of which Jesus and Mary Magdalene had been a part of, and their bloodline had been a part of. So Napoleon wanted to be married into that.
Simpsons predict the U.S. will be in trouble in 2025, and Springfield becomes part of a major crisis spreading across the country. It begins with Lisa watching the news about widespread power outages. Empty store shelves and rising prices are everywhere. Gas stations run out of fuel. Grocery stores impose limits on how much people can buy, and ATMs stop dispensing money. At the Quick E-Mart, Apu apologizes as customers argue over the last loaf of bread. Phones and the internet stop working for hours, leaving people frustrated and confused about what's happening. The government issues vague announcements, but they provide little clarity or help. By summer, Springfield is in total chaos. Power outages last for days, casting the town in darkness and silence. People begin to trade food and supplies in desperate attempts to survive. Marge tries to keep the family calm, organizing candlelit dinners to make the best of a bad situation. As the episode comes to a close, a haunting scene unfolds. A mysterious drone flies over Springfield, and a flashing sign appears that reads, "Prepare for the new normal," leaving everyone wondering what's to come next in this unsettling future. Comment 2025 for part 2 and follow this account.
I'm going to tell you the real deal. Iran launched a mothership probably about a month ago that contains these drones. That mothership is off, I'm going to tell you the deal. It's off the east coast of the United States of America. They've launched drones, is everything that we can see or hear. And again, these are from high sources. I don't say this lightly. Now, we know there was a probability it could have been our own government. We know it's not our own government because they would have let us know. It could have been some really glorified hobbyist or hobbyists that were doing something unbelievable. They don't have the technology. But let's pretend that's possible. The third possibility was somebody, an adversarial country, doing this. Know that Iran made a deal with China to purchase drones, motherships, and technology in order to go forward. The sources I have are good. They can't reveal who they are because they are speaking to me in confidentiality. These drones should be shot down. Whether it was some crazy hobbyist that we can't imagine or whether it is Iran, and I think it very possibly could be, they should be shot down. We are not getting the full deal, and the military is on alert with this.
So let's talk about the mystery of Abraxas. Also, this video is sponsored by this shirt company. This is the greatest shirt that I've ever purchased in my entire life for obvious reasons. If you would like to get your own shirt, it'll be right here in the bottom left-hand corner. However, this is a symbolic depiction of the ancient god known as Abraxas. This depiction was revealed to high initiates of the Christian mysteries in the early 1st centuries. Obviously, at first glance, this depiction is very grotesque, which within itself is the entire purpose or the intentions behind depictions like this in order to scare away the uninitiated. But allow me to introduce you into the mysteries. Why did they choose to symbolically represent the god Abraxas with the head of a rooster? Because it's symbolic of enlightenment, and the mystery actually lies in the book of Job 38 verse 36. This is also why fellowship is extremely important, because me and my other buddy Josh from Sons of God Ministries and also I Pleroma are all in a group chat together, and we put all this together today. So major shout out to Josh for finding this, and we were able to uncover this mystery. Make sure you're giving both of them a follow. So in verse 36 it says, "Who hath put wisdom in the inward parts, or who hath given understanding to the heart?" Now in the Hebrew and in the Kabbalistic interpretation, this would be rendered as, "Who hath put Chokmah in the inward parts, or who hath given Bina to the heart?" However, when we look at the original Hebrew, "to the heart" is rendered from a word that is known as lesikwi, which is actually rendered in Hebrew from English to rooster. But not in the literal sense. This is poetic allegory where the meaning is observant or the mind. And this is the only time that this word is used in the entire Hebrew Bible. Where in the Jewish tradition, in some translations, sekvi is understood to mean rooster, connecting it to the bird's innate ability to sense the arrival of dawn. However, this interpretation is reflected in the morning blessings, which is the Berkot HaShakar, where one praises God for giving the rooster understanding to distinguish between night and day, aka ignorance and knowledge, or Chokmah and Bina. This also brings us into correspondences with the bright morning star as Jesus reveals himself in Revelation 22. We also see very similar imagery when
my original name was Morning Star because, symbolic, but some people can't take it. They go think you always trying to worship evil.
whenever we read Jesus entering into the temple. Just like in Josh's video where he shows the depiction where Jesus starts flipping tables. All of which was understood in the early Christian mysteries. And not only does it symbolically represent a spiritual awakening or a form of enlightenment because a rooster crows at the first sight of dawn, but at the very center heart of our entire brains, the entire housing of what we know as the pineal gland actually happens to look like a rooster. These mysteries are also revealed in the 26th degree of the Scottish Rite, where you can now take the time to pause and read. This information can be found in Albert Pike's magnum opus, or you can find it in this text here, which is available on Amazon. Go ahead and pause to read, as well as many other texts that you can find all of these sources from. This degree also reveals to us who the grand architect of the universe actually is. Symbolically, of course, because we also know the mystery is revealed to us by the Holy Saints John. more specifically John the Baptist, where John 1:1 says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God," because John himself was an early initiator into the early Christian mysteries. So mote it be.
Atmospheric river to blast the East Coast with an unusually potent bomb cyclone. So an atmospheric river is poised to slam into the eastern United States on Wednesday, bringing torrential rain, powerful winds, and significant disruptions. Here we go again. The storm, which is forecast to intensify into a bomb cyclone, will impact areas from the southeast to New England, causing widespread travel delays, flooding, and power outages. The storm began producing severe thunderstorms and heavy rain in the southeast early on Tuesday and is expected to rapidly intensify as it moves up the East Coast. Through Wednesday, it is expected to undergo bomb genesis, a rapid drop in atmospheric pressure of at least 24 millibars in 24 hours. This process will create a vacuum-like effect, drawing in intense winds and rain for an atmospheric river. Now, the main impacts from the atmospheric river event in the east today will be in the form of heavy rain, strong to damaging wind gusts, and even a defined line of thunderstorms that can turn severe. Unfortunately, this can lead to low-lying flooding, rises on rivers and streams, and result in numerous travel delays. And then you got to factor in the wind and possible power outages. Now, the storm's central pressure will plunge dramatically, unleashing gusts between 50 and 70 miles per hour from eastern North Carolina to southeastern Maine. Isolated gusts could reach 85 miles an hour. We're talking about totals of up to 8 inches of rain in the Northeast. Now, according to an expert, the atmospheric river will be unusually potent and moisture-laden. The tropical moisture being dumped on the East Coast has traveled some 2,000 miles from the Caribbean Sea. Basically, guys, if you're on the East Coast, get ready for one hell of a storm.
This is incredible, and nobody is talking about it. Did you guys know that CIA declassified documents proving that we live in an energy hologram universe and astral projection is real? What? I don't think you guys realize how groundbreaking that is, how profound that is, because everything...
Like I said, I've done astral projection when I was a child. It was fun, I'll tell you that. It's like I was really flying.
We perceive, everything we see, think, everything comes from us. We are the universe. All the more reason why you should manifest. You can manifest anything. Money isn't real, time isn't real, nothing is real but you and what you perceive. Even Nikola Tesla revealed that he had a 369 manifestation code, which means you write your affirmations 3 times in the morning, 6 times in the afternoon, and 9 times in the evening. He said these are the keys to the universe. If you only knew the magnificence of 3, 6, and 9, then you have the key to the universe. Now, this sounds weird, but they even use it in music. It sounds ridiculous, you guys, but think about it. Remember the song Get Low? That was a smash hit. It went #1. It topped a lot of charts. Look at the first line, 369, damn you fine. I always thought that it was weird back then, but now it totally makes sense. So I wrote down some affirmations to get anything you want, so make sure you guys say this. Everything you desire is manifesting before your eyes. You are manifesting exactly what you want. You have the power to create your dream life. You are a powerful creator. You allow the energy of wealth and abundance to flow through you. So there's actually a book, a 369 book that helps you through this manifestation, and it's a guidebook. So if you guys want that book, hit the link below or go to my Telegram or link in bio.
Tale of the Carter brothers, John and Wayne, dates back to the early 1930s. According to the legend, the Carter brothers were seemingly ordinary men who lived in a modest apartment in the French Quarter. They were described as quiet and unassuming, living a fairly typical life for the time. However, behind this facade, something far more sinister was allegedly taking place. The story begins with a young woman, disheveled and panicked, escaping from the Carter brothers' apartment. She fled through the streets of the French Quarter until she reached a police officer and told her horrifying tale. The woman claimed that she had been held captive by the Carter brothers, who had allegedly had over a dozen other victims restrained in their home. But this wasn't just an account of abduction or serial killings. What set this story apart was the claim that the Carter brothers were not human. According to this woman, they were vampires. The woman explained that the brothers would come home each night and feed on the blood of their captives. She had witnessed them slice their victims' wrists, drink their blood, and keep keep them alive just long enough to sustain themselves. She claimed that, like herself, most of the other captives were weak and on the brink of death from the loss of blood, waiting for their inevitable fate. Alarmed by the woman's report, the police rushed to the Carter brothers' apartment. What they found there only added to the mystery. Inside, they discovered several other captives in a similar state to the young woman, malnourished, pale, and close to death with wounds on their wrists. The Carter brothers were arrested, and authorities began to investigate the claims of vampirism more seriously. But the strangeness didn't end there. After the brothers were apprehended, the story takes a darker, more supernatural turn.
If China owns $800 billion of U.S. debt, which they do, then of course the United States, as the borrower, has to pay interest, which means that you and I and everybody else gets to pay taxes every year that go to Washington, where they don't fund our roads or schools or hospitals. It's money that the United States government collects and sends to Beijing to pay interest on the debt. And the Chinese use to develop the Red Army. Do you understand? All of this has to happen beneath the surface. Because if Americans understood what I just said, they would realize that beneath all the reality is the opposite. That's the reality of the economic of capitalism.
You were part of the group that stormed Area 51 yesterday, on December 1st. They got together with all their motorcycles and their, it looks like some
Did this really happen?
of them have some sports utility vehicles there out front. But here is when they said, let's go. And they cruised over the sand dunes all the way to the front gates. And they charged through the gates. I think some of them got shot down. But one of them, his name is Jaime Gutierrez. And he said that he thinks he saw an alien finger hanging outside of a box. He said it was outside of one of the main buildings. And he was detained and put down on the ground and arrested. But he said he could see out of the corner of their eye there was a box and it looked like there was an alien finger hanging out. And so I think it's quite incredible evidence that we might not be alone in this universe. I don't know if I agree with their means of storming Area 51. I think maybe they should have just, had a frank conversation with the government of like, we want to know what's going on in there. But what do you think? And were you part of this group?
It looks like we've got our last alien encounter of 2024 because this guy just said that he has been exiled from beyond the ice wall and is now forced to live over here with the rest of us. And if you don't remember, back in March, the news already warned us that we would be seeing alien-type creatures in 2024, but that it's actually just from a disorder called prosopometamorphosia, also known as demon face syndrome, where you see different facial features on a regular person. But some of us caught on and we figured out that they're actually lying to us. And what's actually happening is the veil is being lifted and we can now see these creatures for who they actually are. This has been the year of revealing that the aliens are among us. If you remember way back on January 1st, there were supposedly 10-foot tall gray aliens that showed up in a mall in Miami and 1 million cops showed up. And maybe this all has to do with the fact that Antarctica is melting and people are showing up and other nations are and finding green, fresh new land that no one has ever seen before. One side of Antarctica is melting and growing vegetation while the other side is getting colder. If you ask me, I think that this sudden interest in all the nations coming to Antarctica within the last year, and now the scientists are saying that half of Antarctica is melting, is actually the ice wall opening up and an entrance appearing that leads us to these other secret continents. If this doesn't convince you that something big is coming, I don't know what will. And this is where these aliens are coming from. So if you don't remember, if you ever find one of these people or you suspect that somebody is actually an alien or a shapeshifter, remember to say Kininigan, because they cannot say it and they'll like grumble.
Kininigan.
They'll change their voice to try and say it. They can't say the word. So if you ever meet someone that you think is a little bit suspicious, have them say that word and you'll figure out who they actually are.
Israel is not a trusted, close friend of the United States.
In any way.
Not in any way.
Listen, Israel, when I was at the agency, and granted my information is 20 years old now, but when I was at the agency, Israel was classified as critical threat for counterintelligence. So it was Israel, Russia, North Korea, and Cuba. That's how serious.
Not China?
And China, yes. That's how serious the spy threat is against us from Israel.
The problem is they are also militarily, economically, industrially, very practical to have as allies. And then on top of that, you have our commitment to the Jewish faith and the protection and preservation of the Jewish faith.
Do you think it's a problem that both presidential candidates are getting millions and millions of dollars from the Israelis in support of their presidential campaigns? Like Trump getting 100 million, and I don't know how much Kamala has gotten, at least 5 million, right? Like,
not from the Israelis, though.
Right. This is
America.
Prior to creating Dark Skies, I met with my partner, Brent Friedman, and I didn't know him at the time, and he told me a story about when he was an 18-year-old, and he had been hired to drive a car across the United States to deliver it to someone who was in Reagan's cabinet, who lived in the neighborhood he was at and was a family friend, and that this person was the Undersecretary of the Navy in the first term and Secretary of Energy in the second term, and that he told Brent some harrowing things, which I'm just not going to get into right now. It's too long of a story, but suffice it to say, this person felt that his very basis of reality had been challenged, that he had been briefed and the briefing wasn't so good. And I'll just give you the one quote. He said he cried himself to sleep every night during the briefing period, which apparently was 6 to 8 weeks. And Brent asked him why, and he said, because I have daughters, and this is the world they're going to live in.
Are you saying that nuclear weapons?
It make you think. It make you think. What was said to him, is it made up? And if so, why? Why?
Aren't the worst thing that humans ever made? Nope, it's quantum computers. Why is that worse? Well, it's not quantum computing alone, but the entire system built around it. Okay. You see, if you haven't noticed yet, the entire world is heading rapidly towards automating survival. What, you mean like using robots? Yeah, AI, robots, all these things you hear about now that seem relatively harmless. But what do you think is going to happen when there are more humanoid robots than humans, when they have taken over pretty much every job, are in every single household, and there are quantum computers that house the AI that is managing all of these robots? Well, people wouldn't need to work. The better this gets, the shorter the distance between an idea and seeing that idea realized. Right, so who's in charge of this? That's where things get dangerous. World destruction. If it's intentional, then it's over. My question is, would you befriend somebody who's only friends with you because their leader tells them to be? Wait, are all the UFO sightings real? Nah, it's all military tech. But in 2052, a real spaceship actually landed on Earth. Aliens? That's what everyone thought at first. But no. Then what was it? Well, it was humans. A small group of guys, but nobody had seen them before. So people just forgot about them. Well, that's what it seemed like. But nobody could understand them. Their language was unrecognizable to any of our computer systems. There was no record of it ever being from Earth. So what did they do with them? Well, the government deemed them as a security risk, so they locked them up and put an AI model in charge of decoding their language. And once the model finally decoded their language, they found out that these people were from 3 million years ago. And they were on the first ever spaceship that could travel at the speed of light. And they just finally returned to tell people about what they saw. But how is that possible? An advanced civilization from 3 million years ago sent them on this mission. But to them, a mere 30 years had passed. So what did they think about the future? They actually saw it as quite primitive.
What if I told you that Jesus was not the only one to resurrect themselves? Sri Yukteswar here was not only able to resurrect in front of Yogananda, but materialize an entirely new body. This information is from chapter 43 of Autobiography of a Yogi. And this is what Yukteswar has to say about him resurrecting himself right there. He said, "This is a flesh and blood body. Though I see it as ethereal, to your sight it is physical. From cosmic atoms I created an entirely new body, exactly like that cosmic dream physical body which you laid beneath the dream sands at Puri in your dream world. And he's referencing how a couple weeks ago they had a funeral for him. And Yogananda was not the only one to see him do this, by the way. But then Yukteswar goes on to give one of the greatest discourses of all time, where he goes on to describe basically the keys of how the universe works. And here's some highlights of that. He says that where he went after being human was a place called Haranya Loka. And this is what he says about it. There I am aiding advanced beings to rid themselves of astral karma and thus attain liberation from astral rebirths. And no one can enter Haranya Loka unless he has passed on earth beyond the state of Sabikalpa Samadhi into the higher state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And there's so much information here, but here's another interesting part. He says, the earth-liberated astral being meets a multitude of relatives, fathers, mothers, wives, husbands, and friends acquired during different incarnations on earth. And you know what's interesting is that a lot of this description, he's actually linking to biblical texts, and he's quoting how they're saying the same thing, but most people don't understand the deeper meaning of the Bible. And also he's quoting things from the Bhagavad Gita that support this stuff, and also from Buddhism. And that's what I love about Autobiography of a Yogi. It's that it's describing things with support from other texts and traditions. And if you've been following along with what I've been doing, you know that's a big part of what I do. And the idea that we see in all of Yogananda's books is that if you connect directly to God through meditation, what you find is that you will have that power just as Jesus did, because Jesus was just one who reached the level of Christ, and many others have and will continue to. And what the second coming of Christ is the resurrection of Christ within you. And that's why I chose for this month's book club, which is completely free, by the way, this book. Because I wanted to create a space where we can discuss these ideas together and come to our own conclusions. The book club is part of my Human Game Academy, and we'll be discussing this book all month, and then we'll end the month with a live call where we discuss it, and you can talk to me directly. Either way, I'm just encouraging you to get the book and to read it with an open mind. There's a reason why Steve Jobs recommended it right before he left his body.
Now this a drone, y'all, but it looked like, you know, one of them Star Wars drones. So, well, planes or crafts. That look crazy though. Look huge. It's making a wow sound.
That's not my camera.
It'd been crazy. It's just right there in front of him, like, what's up, brother?
I had to go run in and get my camera. Nobody was gonna believe me.
Why does it seem like it's circling like an area?
Look at this thing.
Or do y'all think I'm wrong?
See?
People are going to question what I'm about to say. What if some of that shit is so big it can't be moved?
Is that what you're saying, Ross? Is that what you've been told?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
How big is big?
Big. So big they built a building over it. In a country outside of the United States of America. I know that sounds preposterous, and I know, oh my God, you can just hear them now, the bleating debunkers. Let's see this investigated. Let's just see what happens. Let's test these allegations before the Congress. It's very, very easy for people to go, oh, there's no evidence, oh my goodness me, let's just go away and ignore it. Let's test it. We haven't even got there yet. You know, there's a whole cadre of supposed experts on social media who are saying it can't be, therefore it isn't. And that's been the default for so many years. It can't be, therefore it isn't. Imagine if what Mr. Grush is saying is true. Think about the implications of that. And imagine if, as I've just intimated to you, some of these objects are not capable of being moved because they're too bloody big.
I mean, that's pretty astonishing. Have you said that before?
No, you're the first. See, I always save something for you, Jay.
Always save me a little something. No, seriously though, Ross, that's nuts. So you were told by someone, a trusted source, I imagine, that
multiple. Let me just tell you this: I know exactly where it is.
My goodness. My goodness. Do you think that's going to come to light?
One day.
One day.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because it's absolutely gobsmacking that it's being kept as a secret.
Jesus.
Imagine having an object that's so big, it's just not conceivable to move it.
I can't. I can barely even comprehend that.
Yeah. I thought it was bollocks when I heard it too, and most people listening to this will anyway. But, yeah, I mean, again, just an allegation, but one that I'm, assured should be taken seriously and hopefully will be being investigated by the Congress. Because again, where did the money come from? Was that money accounted for? The continued security and control of such an object for many decades. Who's paid for that? What programs have paid for that? Has that been disclosed to taxpayers? This is going to be a really fun inquiry if Congress starts doing its job.
Hackers are stealing data.
Oh, you know what's crazy about that? What building is that? And where would it be located? Like he said, they built it over. So if it's so big, what building is so big that's not in the U.S. that they recently built probably in the last 60 years? That's so big. But then if it's so big, is it just underneath? Like, God dang, what if it's like that line? The line is so big. Like, what if it's literally, was it one of these ships? Was one of these ships crash landed and took out the dinosaurs? We thought it was an asteroid. It was a spaceship.
From just the lights on your keyboard. Check this out. This attack takes advantage of the cap lock light and the num lock light. The attacker will pick a file of their choice. In this case, it's going to be my Wi-Fi name and password. And you see the lights are blinking very fast, and you would not notice this normally. Check out how I decode it. Here's how the blinks are decoded. Grabs the frames from the video, and boom, there's my Wi-Fi name and password. This is called a keyboard reflection attack, and no antivirus can detect it. Stay safe.
People don't realize in Australia that we have two of the top bases that are absolutely important for America in the event of a nuclear war. In the event of a nuclear war, do not be anywhere near Alice Springs or a place called Pine Gap or Exmouth in Western Australia. Both of those locations contain bases that are integral to the American strategic nuclear defense, and they will be obliterated in a nuclear war. And something has been taking a very close interest in those bases. I've spoken to American and Australian people who've told me firsthand of objects being seen and detected around those locations. There is an intelligence allegedly engaging with this planet that's been taking an interest in particularly our nuclear weapons, probably out of concern. I do think the evidence is overwhelming that there is a non-human intelligence. That's the new word, NHI, not necessarily alien, because it might be interdimensional.
This photo is considered one of the best photos of the
WAP is like fuel for it. It needs this chemical. It's curious about this properties because it's like it could do something better with it. Or it's just like, wow, y'all came up with this. I'm so curious of what this consciousness is. And they say these UFOs could be one of these things to try to unlock something within us. And man, we might go through a metamorphosis that's like beyond what we could comprehend.
In the Stanley Hotel. The Stanley Hotel is in Estes Park, Colorado, and is considered one of the most haunted hotels in America. So supposedly this photo is so popular that the Huffington Post even did an article on this and other news as well. So the main staircase of the Stanley Hotel is considered to be the vortex or a portal that a lot of people believe a lot of the activity is coming from. This photo was taken during a ghost tour as well, where there was no children present. And I've seen some great apparition photos from the Stanley Hotel, so I definitely do not doubt the authenticity of this photo.
See, you know what could be crazy like that? Like it could be a traumatic event that happened and you leave like a human resonance. And imagine this resonance not only what if it becomes somewhat its own somewhat sentient thing, you know, and it takes a long time before it fades. Or what if it's just like when people say dishes flying, what if it was some traumatic event in that area to where it made things in this general area at a certain time, maybe energy with you, feelings and peak, boom, and then dishes start flying. I don't know.
What do you guys think?
Funny, one of the things I talked about at one stage, and I wish I'd never had, was my knowledge of a very large non-human craft that was discovered and was so large that it was hidden. And I can't reveal how it was hidden, but obviously there's something built over the top of it. I can't reveal where it is. And I've actually had death threats from lunatics on the web who are saying to me I'm under an obligation to reveal it. But what I know is if I revealed the location of that object, I would put the lives of good men and women in the service of their country in jeopardy because it's a place that's being used for a dual purpose. It's quite clever what they've done. And I have no intention of revealing it. Absolutely none. And there are many examples of that where journalists like myself, after consulting with people on the inside, we make a judgment about what we should and shouldn't reveal. And we have to do that because we don't willy-nilly just go out and reveal things recklessly. That's often the way that journalists are portrayed. I hate the way journalists get portrayed in the movies because we're always deceitful, conniving people who don't care about the sources that we're looking after. And we often sacrifice those sources for the sake of getting a glorious story. In my experience, that's not how journalists work. You don't operate for very long as a journalist if you operate like that. And those sort of people, those sort of bad people, get dumped very, very quickly. So you have to protect your sources and you have to treat those people with respect.
Just gonna ignore the fact that physicists at Google think we might live in a multiverse? Because yeah, that's in the news this week. So on Monday, Google announced that they've been working on this thing right here called Willow, and basically it's just a computer chip. It's not just any chip. Septillion years to solve. Far tests Willow solved a standard with a break computing, but Willow, and basically it's just a computer chip. It's not just any chip for some regular old PC, right? It's for a quantum computer. Now forgive me for not knowing everything about quantum computing, but I'm just going to tell you a rundown of what the hell's going on here. So on Monday, the CEO of Google came out with this tweet. He said, introducing Willow, our state-of-the-art quantum computing chip with a breakthrough that can reduce errors exponentially as we scale up using more qubits, cracking a 30-year challenge in the field. In benchmark tests, Willow solved a standard computation in less than 5 minutes that would take a leading supercomputer over 10 septillion years to solve, far beyond the age of the universe. If you don't know what 10 septillion years looks like written out, here it is. They went from solving a problem in 10 septillion years to under 5 minutes. Do you understand how insane that is? So me, when I read that, I think it's obviously insane, but I have no idea what it means, right? Well, then Google just decided to drop this on us. It lends credence to the notion that quantum computation occurs in many parallel universes, in line with the idea that we live in a multiverse. Again, this is way above my pay grade, but from what I'm gathering about this is that these quantum computers use other quantum computers in a multiverse to solve these problems very fast.
They'd be like, hey, bro, did you solve this problem? No, but I think Jimmy did, you know, his timeline and that universe. And oh, that's crazy work if they send in signals to one another like that. That's interesting. But if you go to the wrong computer and you catch a virus, like oh man, like you could be compromised.
I don't know how the hell they figured this out. If someone smarter than me can explain, feel free. But the idea that we live in a multiverse is becoming more and more real every day.
Genetic Information Non-Discriminatory Act. That's another thing that they can use to isolate people for these camps. Do you think it's just coincidence that out of nowhere, and it really was out of nowhere, all these DNA testing stuff just became a fad? Hey, I like to get me an Ancestry.com website checkup. I like to do 23andMe checkup. I like to know where I come from. It's like it became a fad. Everybody on TikTok, people were talking about it. They create social media, and then it died out of nowhere. Now nobody's really talking about it anymore. So then the next thing in my mind is, where's all this data going? Because you have to take real DNA samples and then send it to them. Whoever has all this data, they don't just have some arbitrary, like I checked your face scan. They have legitimate DNA from you, so they have technical DNA data. of every single person who sent them these samples. And there's a database with that. They can create blockchain addresses with your DNA. If they tie your DNA to a blockchain address, that's your new number. That's your new social security number. So what are they doing? They're able to segregate by ethnicity. Thinking about the larger cryptocurrency ecosystem for the deportees. They can give you an address based on your DNA, their own ecosystem, their own currency system, just for deportees since they're not American citizens. And it'll all be correlated with their DNA. And that'd be their social security number, the blockchain address.
I want to say something that was the weirdest thing I think I've ever heard a politician say.
All right.
It involves Hillary Clinton. So 2 weeks ago, it was the Clinton Global Initiative. The interviewer asked...
Brief final question. You liken yourself to Cassandra. Putting that Cassandra hat on for the moment, what is something you see happening in the near future that we should be taking more seriously?
I said...
Hold on a second.
What? I looked it up and it says in Greek mythology, Cassandra was a prophetess who could predict the future but was never believed. Her name literally means she who entangles men. The god Apollo, which a lot of people have interpreted as Apollo is Satan, fell in love with Cassandra and offered her the gift of prophecy in exchange for love. Cassandra agreed but then refused to keep her word. In retaliation, Apollo cursed her so that no one would believe her predictions. But what's so weird to me was that she has apparently openly said, I'm like Cassandra.
You have no idea. Do you know what this is? Do you know who this is? If you think you know what statue this is or who this is, comment below, but don't cheat. This video is going to be very quick, so make sure you're listening to what I'm saying, because the information is going to come out fast. You had enough time in the comments, now I'm going to tell you. This statue right here is a representation of Yahweh's father, the God of the Bible's father, the creator of the most worshipped God on this planet, the original Most High in the Bible. First, you got to understand that the King James Version ain't it. In 1941, we found an ancient manuscript called the Dead Sea Scrolls. See, this manuscript dated all the way back to between 200 BCE and 100 CE. This is significant. These are the oldest texts that we know of, excluding, I believe, the small portion that was found. And they are therefore way closer in time to the original texts that make up the Bible. This makes them highly valuable when trying to figure out the original writing, meaning, and wording of the original text that make up the Bible. The King James Version was created in 1611. They didn't have access to Dead Sea Scrolls. You see, the King James Version used manuscripts that today we know are not good sources. That's why modern translations like in the NRSV are used more today by biblical scholars. So what did the Dead Sea Scrolls say? Let's just say what it says goes against the traditional belief in Abrahamic religions. See, the Dead Sea Scrolls version of Deuteronomy 32 is different than most manuscripts, which means most manuscripts have it wrong. It said the Most High, El Elyon, divided the nations between his children, or the gods, giving each god a nation, and he gave Yahweh his portion, which was Yaqub, or not only does it say there's multiple gods, but this says that Yahweh has a father, El, because at one point in time, Yahweh and the Most High were two distinct deities. But as the culture changed, they went back and changed the scribes. So yes, this is El, who's El Elyon, or El Shaddai, who was originally conceived of as a separate god from Yahweh and Yahweh's father. If you want deeper knowledge on this, you need to read a book called World War Gods, the biography of Yahweh. The free audiobook is in the link at the top of the page. I go live every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Central and every Friday at 9 p.m. Central. I probably am live right now. If you disagree or have questions, I'll see you there. I love you all. Peace. Go get that free audiobook.
Solomon says that God answered his prayer and sent an angel down with a ring to give him a ring, and that ring gave him power over the spiritual world. And Solomon uses it in what seems to be an attempt to help humanity. He claims that he used the authority of the ring to summon all the principalities of the world, the Nephilim, that are these disembodied spirits going around causing all this illness and different things. And he does several things. He interviews them as to what they hate
what casts them out, and like what angel is over them, that they, if that angel comes, they'll flee. Michael or Raphael or whatever, right? He writes all this stuff down, and this becomes witchcraft. For instance, one of the demons told him, I was in the land of Persia or whatever, but I left because someone was cooking fish. A fish gallbladder burning over an open fire drives me nuts. It's like putrid to me because I'm a water-based demon, and something like, we don't smell burning things underwater, and so seeing it in the open air just makes me want to vomit, and so I left. Solomon's like, that's interesting information. I'm going to write that down. So if you want to repel a water demon, burn the gallbladder of a fish over an open fire in the month of June on a full moon or whatever. And that became a spell, which is where witchcraft comes from. Does that make sense?
It does.
The pentagram they use in their prayer circles is an homage to the Ring of Solomon. Solomon called it a prayer circle. He used to use the names of God, Adonai, and different powerful names of God, to keep the demons from getting to him while he's playing these games with them, interviewing them. He would summon them, milk them for information, forcing them to comply with the ring, and then basically saying, okay, you go over here. He would enslave them to build the temple of God. That's why they think all these rocks, the pyramids and stuff were built by these types of things. So the Masons come out of this as well. One of the pious...
And they say some of these things we've seen in history, like the dog man, these feline entities, these different beings might be from a different dimension that, came over here and did stuff. So when we see these things in Egyptian culture, it could have been, somebody pulled them in from somewhere else to help them with something. I'm just saying. Or somebody else built them. We don't know. But that could be a possibility. I find that possibility very, very interesting.
Ranking demons that Solomon enslaves to be a worker in the temple, he makes him a stone cutter and a mason, which is where the Masonic order seems to come with this demonic. Does that make sense? It's like all tied together. So Solomon summons all these guys, writes down a list of everything they hate based on starts to categorize and map out the spiritual world for the sake of humanity being able to control them. Because at this point, these things are running around tormenting the world. Solomon's trying to get a hold of it. So he's basically the sorcerer supreme, if you think of it like that. But he realizes that you can enslave the entire spiritual world if you get their bosses. They have to follow. And now you've cleared the world of demons, and guess what he trapped them in?
What?
A brass vessel, a lamp. This is where the legend of genies comes from. It's also the idea of Pandora's box. All the evil of the world trapped in one little bitty vessel, right? He throws it into the lake, drowning them. The world prospers. His kingdom prospers. Everything's good. No evil, no wars, no nothing. Humanity, hearing the legends of this, start trying to dive the sea to figure out how to get this lamp back up so they can release these things so that they can manifest. This is like literally manifestation. That's why it's so dark and deep. Very ancient roots to these things. They want stuff. These things have power, and while they were horrible and tormenting us, they also gave us what we wanted if we worshiped them, right? So they opened Pandora's box. Solomon's still in control because of the ring, but at this time, and this is where Balaam comes back in, guess what they did to trip up Solomon? They sent a woman to cause him to fornicate, who forced him as a literal prerequisite to sleeping with him, you have to worship my foreign god. They always try to get God to punish us through our sin because they can't curse us because of the authority we have in Christ. So they release Pandora's box. Solomon's still in control, but now he's being tempted to, if you want to marry the queen, I think it was the Queen of Sheba, you have to worship Moloch. So he sacrifices to Moloch, and he said the second he did it, he said, I immediately felt the Spirit of God depart from me. Said, as I continued to do it, I felt it completely abandon me, and I became the sport of the demons I once controlled. Spent the rest of his life tormented by demons and giving into all these different things. Now that God wasn't protecting him, he became a master of witchcraft to try to force these things to not be able to... He tried to take it into his... It's like, God's abandoned me. They're going to kill me. They're going to ruin my life. I have to figure... And so he comes up with all these spells he wrote. I remember so-and-so said... he hates gallbladders, and so he started, get me 3 gallbladders of this, and he basically became a sorcerer in order to ward off the demonic world, which is now at his doorstep. And this is the birth of witchcraft. Solomon really perfected the art of the modern occult through his desperation to ward off the spiritual world after God left and abandoned him.
I'm talking to people at the moment, and this is creepy, but people at the moment who are contacting me, and I've had 3 do it now from all over the world, who say they've felt an urge to contact me, and they tell me that they've communicated with a blue being, has imbued them and downloaded them with information. And in one case, the person developed an ability to instantaneously understand physics equations.
And sometimes I feel like, especially when I was younger, I used to like ask the Lord, like I want to be smarter, because my family, when I came from, Akron, I'm not going to say I was stupid, but it was just a different learning curve. You see what I'm saying? And they was just like, but I always was a wordsmith. But as time progressed, it just seemed like I knew things. I wake up and I just know things. It's like I did things in the spiritual world that my mind recalled or my subconscious recalled, but I just consciously couldn't remember, but it always bled through. So maybe something like that happened to some of us. Who knows?
Highly complex mathematics. And I've seen them do it. When you think of the whole Genesis story, mate, it's got to be fucking aliens. Seriously. We think of God in some kind of corporeal image of a humanoid man. But really, it makes a lot more sense to me if God, or whatever we think of God, in whatever religion we're embracing, is essentially a spiritual being that is in our consciousness, that is aware of us and is guiding us, and perhaps created us. And why is it so hostile to the idea to consider the possibility that that is alien, non-human? Maybe what the UFOs are is a manifestation of them expressing themselves to us in a way that they're trying to sort of twig our interest. I'm not saying...
it's crazy. It's twigs on this Path of Exile 2 I've been playing. So just that word is interesting.
UFOs aren't a technology, because I've spoken to people who say that they are. But I don't think necessarily... it might explain actually why we're not able to reverse engineer them all that well.
This man fucked up so bad that this might be the reason they removed him from Iron Man 1 and replaced him with a different guy. Watch what he just said in this podcast with Joe Rogan.
What's in this stuff? Just things to counteract the natural the metals that we have in our bodies that wear us out, and it removes the parasites from your system, like oil of oregano, like using oil of oregano instead of using antibiotics.
And have you felt an effect?
Yes.
Yeah? What do you feel when you take?
Well, I used to have really thick dark circles under my eyes. That's gone away in the last 6 months. I've been using that. My skin, I'm 55 years old. Do I look like I'm 55?
No, you don't. You look great. And do you think that's because of this?
I think, well, I'm going to show you a picture of what I used to look like.
And even Dr. Sebi's son got sentenced to 155 years for trying to talk about this herb. And that's probably because the U.S. health industry is worth $4.8 trillion. And you don't need to go to a doctor to get oil of oregano. Therefore, they can't profit off you. And this herb is literally known as nature's antibiotic. So if the world were to go to shit, you couldn't get to any doctor or get any antibiotics and you had this, you would be fine. It's oregano, and if you make an oil out of it and take it anytime you feel like you're coming down with something, it will knock that shit right out. And there's hundreds of studies online to back this up. Even my sister came home the other day feeling like crap and running a fever, and I gave her some oil of oregano, specifically the one by Micro Ingredients, and the next morning she felt way better. Would have never thought she was throwing up and running a fever the night before. And that's because oil of oregano is antibacterial, antiviral, and antimicrobial. And this is nothing new. Oil of oregano has been used for centuries. You look through all the old remedy books, they all refer to oil of oregano. Plus, you get 301 bags, so they basically last forever because you only take it when you feel like you're coming down with something. The only problem is olive oregano is known to be a little expensive, like 40 to 50 a bag, because it is hard to source, but I found this one on TikTok Shop and it's on sale for Black Friday for like $25, $30 with free shipping. So if you want to prepare for this cold and flu season, click that one.
You know what I'm gonna do for y'all? I test it out for us. You know, I sit back and be the guinea pig. But hopefully you like, you know, the compilation I put together today. If you made it this far, like, comment your thoughts. Tell me what was your favorite part of the video. Do you think the drones are ours, or aliens, interdimensional being, God, a foreign adversary? Let me know. Hopefully you take care. Have a blessed one. Thanks for tuning in.